After the insane takedown of the popular Switch emulator Yuzu, a new open-source emulator called Suyu came into the light, and it's getting crazy support from across the board. However, people are a bit concerned if Nintendo will find a way to kill this emulation effort too. But in this video, we will see how Suyu is protecting itself from falling into the same traps that made Yuzu leave the emulation scene forever. Yeah, I know, the internet never forgets, and people are still using the old saved latest build to play the games, but any further development of the Yuzu emulator is dead. Today, Suyu has launched its first build that can be played on your PC and Android devices, and we are already seeing videos of people sharing their Tears of the Kingdom gameplay that's way above 60 FPS on the PC. Let's explore how Suyu is trying to be more cautious here, and maybe they will be successful in not getting obliterated by Nintendo. Ars Technica recently spoke with Sharpie, a contributor and Discord moderator for Suyu, who shed light on the project's cautious approach and the lessons learned from Yuzu's legal battles. Suyu currently exists in a legal gray area we are trying to work our way out of, Sharpie acknowledged. There are multiple plans and possibilities for what to do next. Things are still being organized and planned. The Suyu project arose from a passion for Switch emulation and a desire not to see years of impressive work by the Yuzu team go to waste, according to Sharpie. However, this passion is being tempered by a cautious approach designed to avoid the legal fate that befell Yuzu. After consulting with an unnamed individual with legal experience, the Suyu development team has decided to avoid any monetization, Sharpie said. This decision comes after Nintendo cited Yuzu's profitability as a factor in its recent lawsuit against the project. The project's GitLab page clearly states that we do not intend to make money or profit from this project, an important declaration after Nintendo cited Yuzu's profitability a few times in its recent lawsuit, Sharpie explained. Additionally, the Suyu developers have been warned against providing step-by-step guides, like the ones that Yuzu offered for how to play copyrighted games on their emulator, as these guides were a major focus of Nintendo's lawsuit. Suyu is taking an extremely hard line against even the hint of any discussion of potential piracy on its platforms. The Suyu GitLab page is upfront that the developers do not support or condone piracy in any form, a message that didn't appear on Yuzu's GitHub page or website. The #1 rule listed on the Suyu Discord is that piracy is prohibited. That includes any talk about downloading games or asking for system files, ROMs, encryption keys, shader caches, and discussion of leaked games, etc. Even a mention of the word piracy with regard to legal questions is enough to earn a warning on the Discord, according to those rules, Sharpie said. See, one thing we need to understand here is that monetization is one of the biggest reasons Yuzu was targeted. They became overly ambitious, thinking they were untouchable, and then they started to accept Patreon payments, which made them liable for all the requests from the customers, including giving them details on how to pirate games. The Discord became rife with information where they saw Yuzu moderators helping people with running pirated games. Behind the scenes, the Suyu developers are working to distance themselves from Yuzu's codebase and potential legal liabilities. We are removing all references to Yuzu or Tropic Haze, the LLC set up to run the Yuzu Patreon, from the source code for Suyu, Sharpie revealed. On a technical level, the team is also changing certain DRM circumvention code to help avoid legal liability. One of the major parts of Nintendo's lawsuit was the generation of title.keys by Yuzu, Sharpie explained, referring to the game-specific encryption keys used by the emulator at runtime. That is one of the first things we are removing, reworking. Suyu will require the user to provide their own title, keys, prod.keys, and firmware from their Switch console. The Suyu GitLab notes that in order to use Suyu, you'll need keys from your real Switch system and games which you have legally obtained and paid for. However, Sharpie admitted to ours that while the emulator won't boot without firmware, there isn't really a way to verify the keys were dumped legitimately from the user's Switch. But then this doesn't bring Suyu into trouble unless they provide ways to get them or dupe them. The people who would be pirating the games would be responsible for this, not Emulation team. But we all know things like these get easily propagated on the internet, but again, this is not the fault of the Emulation team. As the Suyu project navigates the legal complexities surrounding Switch emulation, the team's public rollout has been intentionally slow and measured, according to Sharpie. We wanted to fly under the radar at the start until we could, at the very least, figure out what needs to be done in our efforts to keep this project alive, Sharpie explained. It's already much more widespread than ideal for the current stage of development. The team's slow public rollout is by design, Sharpie said, both for legal reasons and because we want to have more tangible progress to show before providing any compiled builds. However, this plan has already been somewhat spoiled by the sheer size and growth of the Suyu Discord server, which has made the project much more popular than we would have preferred, according to Sharpie. Yuzu's a different beast, since there's no straightforward way to play a Switch game from its cartridge on a PC. This gray area around the ethics and legality of emulating current-gen consoles like the Switch makes the whole debate more complex. Ideally, this is the kind of stuff that would get hashed out in court, but the reality, especially in the US, is that many of these disputes end with a settlement outside of court. It often comes down to who can afford to keep the legal battle going. In this case, Nintendo's deep pockets mean they can push until the other side has to give in, even if those being sued might have had a strong case. The drama around Nintendo shutting down a Super Smash Bros. Mod tournament fits into this pattern of aggressive IP protection. But the bigger picture here, especially with Citra's development ending, is about preserving gaming history. The 3DS had a long run with a hefty library of games. Citra aimed to make all those games fully compatible with their emulator, a goal now dashed by the settlement. This could scare off other emulator devs, putting a dent in efforts to keep old games playable. Nintendo's not helping with game preservation either. Their Switch Online service leaves out a ton of games and consoles, like the Virtual Boy, DS, 3DS, GameCube, Wii, and Wii U. So if you want to play games from those systems, you're either looking at emulation or hunting down secondhand copies. This standoffish stance on preservation isn't just a Nintendo thing, it's becoming more common across all entertainment media. Shows and movies get yanked from streaming services without ever getting a physical release, leaving no legal way for fans to watch them. Nintendo's actions might be part of a bigger strategy, maybe hoping to release pricey remakes or start their own emulation services down the line, but for now, it means huge chunks of gaming history are out of reach, unless you're willing to dive into the murky waters of emulation or pay up on the secondary market. All in all, the discontinuation of Citra and the challenges facing 3DS game preservation are a microcosm of the larger issues at play in the gaming industry and in the realm of digital copyright. As we reflect on the legacy of the 3DS, its innovative games, and the community that has rallied around it, the importance of continued advocacy for game preservation and fair legal protections becomes clear. This is not just about reliving nostalgia or playing old games for the sake of it, but what matters is recognizing video games as a vital part of our cultural heritage, worthy of preservation and accessible to all. And with that, we come to the very end of this video. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to give us a thumbs up and comment your thoughts on the topic. Until next time, gamers.